Ready.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Inquiring Minds. I'm Steve Harper. With me, as always, is my amazing co-host, Donna Karlin. Donna, how are you doing?
I'm really good. I'm going to say I can't wait for this conversation, but that's going to become boring. And, people are going to say, you say that every single time. It's true. It's really true. So,
Well, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we both enjoy these conversations so much, so it's kind of a highlight for our week, I think. So we are, we leverage this time in such a magical way. So it's okay to be like, hey, I'm looking forward to this because I am, and you are, and so let's go. What are we talking about today?
so I want to build on one of our recent shows where we talked about consistency and commitment.
Yeah,
And it's a quote that I just read online from Michael Jordan, of all people. He has
the
some wisdom.
basketball player, not the actor.
There's an actor, Michael Jordan.
Yeah, he plays Creed. In
Okay.
yeah
I
and
only
he
think
was
of the
yeah, he's in several
basketball.
movies, but yeah, Creed is his famous role.
Okay. Sorry, other Michael Jordan. I'm sorry I
He goes
didn't.
by Michael B. Jordan just to make sure that there's no
Oh,
confusion.
okay.
So
Yeah, there you go. Um, he was speaking about commitment, and I thought it's a great thing to continue the conversation.
yeah.
Commitment can't be compromised by rewards. I love that statement in itself. Excellence isn't a 1 week or a 1 year ideal. It's a constant. There will be days where you don't feel on top of your game, but your commitment remains constant. No compromises. Just about any person who has achieved a high level has had the same focus. And it's
Mm,
really interesting because I've been working with a colleague of mine on the updating of the 5 keys to mastery. And George Leonard was always talking about consistency, that practice, practice, practice is one of the keys of the 5 keys.
yep.
And, consistent practice and practicing the right things, obviously, no matter what you're living, that commitment to achieving a masterful level in something is what's going to get you where you want to go. Excuse me. It's not rewards. And I love that first sentence.
Yeah.
Commitment, it can't be compromised by rewards because that's pushing somebody towards doing something. In other words, you're drawing them to the reward, not to achieving the mastery. And rewards shouldn't be it. Extra money shouldn't be it. It should be
Yeah.
achieving a level that you strive for. So what is your experience of this?
Well, I was having to look up really quickly a book that I finished an audio book that actually is by a guy that I know has trained Michael Jordan and other key basketball players. And I remember specifically one of the statements he made was, and I think it was actually about Dwayne Wade, if I am not mistaken. But the moment that he finally hit and won the NBA championship, he called him the next day and said, "All right, let's get back in the gym." He's a personal trainer, so the commitment to move forward and not rest on your laurels and continue to build upon the momentum that you've created with now you've got one title. What's it going to take to get two? And he learned that by observing Michael Jordan and his commitment to not just being satisfied, right? Not just, sitting there and saying, "Hey, we're the champs. We'll come back in, 2 months and start the process of building." The process of staying a champion and building to the next championship begins immediately. And I remember this, commitment in terms of what his approach was, that the work never stops. It may modify, it may change, but you're always doing something to continue to push the ball forward and to continue to get better. And you can't rest on your laurels and can't wait, for, things to fall into line so that you can say, okay, now I'm ready. It's convenient for my schedule. You make it happen if you're really, truly committed to your success. And part of the reason that he got started was actually from exposure that he had gotten to the Chicago Bulls and watching Michael Jordan and his greatness, how every day was a commitment to what he did and how he did it and how he served as the example. There's a great documentary about that whole run that the Bulls had with Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, and it's a little bit eye opening, but it's called The Last Dance. You can find it on ESPN, and it's like a 30 for 30 kind of docu series. but it's really amazing to see how committed, once you get there, you have to fight even harder to stay there. And that's what I think, that's the essence of what you're sharing here, which is you just have to, you're never satisfied. You want to keep pushing yourself to continue to get better at whatever it is that you might be trying to do, whether it's grow your company, build a bigger team, be a better connector, be a better coach or consultant or speaker or whatever it is. It's a craft, and you have to constantly continue to work at getting better every single day.
There's a few things that you said that resonate. Once you get there, you have to fight even harder to stay there.
Yep.
And I'm not sure it's always about getting better as much as it is expanding what it is that you do, learning new ways of doing things that keep things fresh. I think is like also speaks to what you said, not rest on your laurels. It was interesting. Somebody asked me in my experience, what has been the biggest roadblock for people to continue to grow and evolve in their careers? And I said, a successful promotion. And they looked at me and they said,
Hmm.
what? I go, yep, because they say they want to become a CEO one day, and they've just gotten their promotion to vice president, and they're over the moon because they never in their wildest dreams thought they called themselves vice president at some point in their life. And then they look at me and they go, you know what? I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to push the envelope to the point where I'm going to fail. So rather than really continue to grow and evolve and be more masterful at what it is that they do, they just want to stay there because it's already like a bump up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they
But
don't realize what you just said, though, that once you get there, you don't rest there. You still have to, I don't like using the word prove yourself, but I can't think of anything else offhand right now. You have to prove that you're still worthy to keep that position. It's not yours to keep for the rest of your life or the rest of the life of the company. It's yours to maintain as long as you do what has to be done within your role and you honor your, here's the word again, commitment
yep.
to doing what has to be done in that capacity. So if you're going to honor that commitment and really commit to being present, do your best, be your best every single day, then why not go for the next level?
Yeah, I think one of the things, the underlying advice is you can be you can be happy but never satisfied. And what I mean by that is that you become the one thing you compete against to continue to want to push yourself to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I see is that a lot of people, especially as you're mentioning, people are like, I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. At some point, maybe it's a year from now or 10 years from now, that person's going to look back and go, gosh, I really should have kept pushing. I should have kept working. I should have kept, staying the course that I was on, and what could have happened. And, we've had episodes of regret before where now we're looking back and saying, gosh, I missed my window or missed my opportunity. And we all know that maybe that's not the case, but, you don't want to live in a fear of regret. And the way that you don't live with that fear of regret is to not allow regret to ever, enter into the equation. I was thinking when you were saying, once you hit a pinnacle, once you hit something, one of two things tend to happen, at least that I've seen in my clients. They get lazy or complacent, or to your point, they get fearful. Right now, all of a sudden, um, you know, I don't want to screw it up. I don't want to, I don't want to push any harder because I might, mess up what I've already achieved or what I have. And I actually like to look at that fear as the greatest motivator, which is, hey, you may not have somebody nipping at your heels, or you may not have a competitor that's coming after your product or service. But what if you did? And what if in your own mind you got up every morning with that commitment to not let that fictitious whoever coming after you ever get their teeth into your backside. Push forward, walk, wake up every morning and work your tail off like you don't know who might come and replace you, or who might be looking at what you have and say, I want to make it my own. That becomes sort of that self-driving motivator to make sure that you are really showing up as your true, authentic, committed self every single day in the work you have. When I first started playing tennis and I started playing a lot of tournaments, I couldn't find a lot of people to play with me. And so not because I was so good, but maybe it was because I was so bad. I'm not sure. But at the end of the day, I was getting better. But every time I would go out on the tennis court and hit the backboard, it wasn't because it was boring, it was repetitive. I had to make up in my own head a competitor that was across the net from me. And I pushed myself constantly to get better every time I went out to practice by myself. And I was
Mm.
always playing against the hidden or the unknown opponent, which made me stronger mentally, made me better physically, and it prepared me for when I did meet whatever my next match might be. And I think always having that something that's spurring you forward, right? That competitive, it keeps those competitive juices flowing at any stage of your life, I think is really, really important.
Absolutely. You look at it from many perspectives. One, excuse me, one that came to my mind was people saying, in order for me to honor that commitment to greatness and the practice, 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 and everything else, means that I need to be willing to sacrifice something else for it.
Mm-hmm.
And, that also stops them because some people feel that if they have to, practice incessantly and in sports, be out there and constantly be practicing your craft, then that means they have to give up family time. They have to give up their social life. They have to give something up. And, it is, in a way, um, a sacrifice, I suppose, or a redefining of what the rest of your life will look like. And if it's by choice and you feel that you're not having to let go of something that's critically important, which is your family and everything else, because these are the excuses I get. If I
Mm-hmm.
if I move up, I'm not going to have as much family time. And in some cases, that's actually stopped some of my clients from going after that promotion because they loved their life the way it was. Um, so it's not about a sacrifice, and we talked about the term sacrifice before. One of my colleagues, sharing that sacrifice means making something sacred. Doesn't mean having to relinquish or give up something. What it means is if you're making something so sacred that it's worth giving something up for. When it comes to family and relationships, it's not so easy to do that. So what is that balance for you? Commitment and consistency doesn't mean leaving the rest of your world to the side of the road. What it does mean is to focus with attention and care on what you're doing when you're doing it. How you disperse your time or divide your time or your focus or whatever else is up to you. The question is, what is your commitment and how consistent will you be to honoring that commitment?
Yeah.
That even goes in our coaching relationships because in like when I was first starting out, it wasn't unusual for a client to cancel because something else came up.
Yep.
And when I'm saying to myself, are they relinquishing the opportunity to grow and be stronger in their leadership for a meeting that they're not going to get anything out of, but they don't know how to really discern what's important, what isn't important. And the easiest thing, rather than, look bad or whatever at work, is to tell Donna, I'm going to cancel my session.
I'm too busy. Yeah.
I'm too busy. And
Yep.
and how to get around that because I get paid if they cancel within 48 hours. I get paid regardless of whether or not they show up.
Yep.
That's in all the contracts, because I'm not going to allow my living to be impacted by people who at the last minute say something better came up.
Yep.
They're going to pay for it anyway. So that's off the table. It's no longer about money. It's about commitment. And you're looking at the commitment that is made to your own personal growth. If they're willing to put that aside for something else, I'm not talking about an emergency, then there's no commitment there.
Yeah.
When it's convenient, they do it.
Yeah.
And there goes the difference between commitment, consistency, and convenience.
Yep. Yeah. No, yeah, that's well said, and really drives that point home. And so, how might you suggest our audience really look at this from their own perspective, their own work, their own whatever it is that they're really hoping to achieve? How do you have them look at this through a framework that helps them test that commitment level?
But we talked about intentions equal results. If you intend to be committed, and every day you wake up with that intention to be committed, then you're going to be consistent. That's the easiest way to
Yeah.
look at it. If you're constant, like if you look back after a week, and I always ask people to reflect on their week and what did they achieve, what didn't they achieve, all this kind of stuff. If they look back and they see how many times they canceled on something or how many times they didn't honor a commitment, that kind of thing, that's showing a trend in behavior. And are you happy with that trend in behavior? That's the next question.
Yeah.
What does, like, how does that impact trust level with other people when it involves other people? When it involves you achieving your highest and best, then that is a whole different story, because if you constantly put that aside, then either you're very happy with the status quo, or I invite you not to look back a month, 2 months, a year later and say, why didn't I achieve, that, why didn't I get that promotion, or why
Yeah.
didn't I achieve that, higher level in my business, or whatever it was. Why should you? If you didn't honor your commitments to do everything necessary to get there, it's on you. It's not on any other external factor. Rather than look at a way to get it, saying, okay, I have something else that I'm going to jump towards, or be scattered with your what your choices are, then you're going to get the outcome that you got. That's the bottom line. It all starts with you and it ends with you. A commitment is something that's heartfelt.
Yeah.
If your
Yeah.
heart is not in it, then don't commit to it. Figure out what your heart is in, what you're passionate about, what your role within that passion would be, or what you wish it would be, and do everything in your power to get there. That's where people drop commitments and being inconsistent when they're doing things that they don't care as much about, that they're
Yeah.
not passionate about.
Yeah.
That's
No,
the
I think
litmus
that
test.
valid point, very valid point. You've got to have a way to test your metal on that, and to make sure that you are truly committed and asking those questions. We talk a lot about this on the show, but having these internal conversations with yourself, and being able to be honest about how realistic it is, how focused you are, how much of your heart is in whatever it is that you're focused on. That becomes a really critical step to take for yourself, to ensure that you are putting your time, energy, and attention on the things that matter the most, that are going to help you deliver. Because if your heart's not into it and you're going through the motions, you may still achieve some version of success, whatever that might be, but it won't be
Yeah.
it won't feel authentic, and it won't feel valuable, right?
What's interesting? Like, my book is going to be out late fall, this fall, which I'm very excited about. And one of the parts of it is, what are the questions you need to ask yourself right now? And it's fascinating, because when I spoke to some people about that, And I say, if you're having a conversation with yourself, nobody else is around. It's in your head. Like, you don't even have to speak it out loud. And you're not willing to be honest with what the answers are that come to you. Because we even make excuses to ourselves as to why we are where we are.
Yeah.
And if we can't even be honest with ourselves, then obviously we're not going to be any more honest with the rest of the world.
Yep.
Even if you work with a coach who might challenge you a little bit, um, you know me with my, 1, 2, 3, and 4 hockey puck conversations. Now my clients already are saying it's going to be a 2 hockey puck conversation because this is what I did or this is what I talked myself into, that kind of thing. The first thing is to be honest with yourself
Yep.
before you make any commitments and delegate or commit to time and attention to something. Ask yourself, is this what I truly want? Is this my story that I'm living? Am I doing this because it's hugely important to me or for any other reason? If it's any other reason, chances are you're going to drop that commitment unless your back is to the wall
Yeah.
for all the wrong reasons.
Absolutely. Yep. Well, I love this fact that we're on this topic and getting people to have those internal conversations, encouraging them to have that because it really is an opportunity for them to really see just how committed they are and whatever's important to them. And also maybe an opportunity for them to, pull some of those excuses out and, test them and see if they're really worth using, and how much they might be holding you back. And so we could continue this conversation, I think, for a long time. But, Donna, how can people maybe share with us what their thoughts are on today's episode or the last episode that we talked about when we raised this first, aspect of commitment? What's the best way for them to get engaged in conversation with us, share their 3 cents, as you like to say it, and give us the feedback or input, as to what they're pulling from these episodes?
The best way is to join our Facebook group, Inquiring Minds with Donna, Karlin, and Steve Harper. And all our episodes are up there, so you can look at what they are and the little blurbs about them and listen in. Share your ideas, your thoughts, any other topics you'd like us to discuss. Happy to have you. Our YouTube channel, of course, under the same name. Just, join our community. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be back again with another episode of Inquiring Minds. But thanks for, as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for paying attention to these topics and asking yourself these important questions. We are super honored that you're here. But we'll be back again with another episode very soon. But until then, Donna, take care.
You too.